Okay, calling the Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, April 20th. Can I have a roll call, please?
Sulkitis.
Here.
Folks.
Here.
Bungard.
Here.
Munns.
Here.
Gem.
Here.
Spellman.
Here.
Petrilla.
Here.
Wirball.
Here.
Bessner.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, we'll just start by asking everyone, please make sure your phones are silent. Thank you so much for everyone that has stayed. I want to make sure everyone understands the order of this meeting and how this works, because we do have a packed house in here. There are two places for public comment and Committee of the Whole. The first one is open to anyone that wants to speak regarding something that is on the agenda. You're welcome to come up. We have a lot of people. Are we going to have a sign up or sign in? Okay, Tara is going to do a sign in if anybody does want to speak, and then you can line up at the podium. And that is only for items that are on tonight's agenda. And then after all of the items that are on the agenda, there will be an open public comment for anything else. You can still speak on things that were on the agenda as well, but there'll be two sections in which you can do that. So just keep that in mind. As a reminder, public comment is not a question and answer. It is not a dialogue with either the presenters or with people on the committee. It is simply you submitting your statement to the Committee of the Whole. So we will move forward. Can I have a motion for consent agenda?
Motion.
Motion by Spellman and second by Bongard. Can I have a roll?
Sulkitis.
Yes.
Folks. Folks. Bungard.
Yes.
Gem.
Yes.
Spellman.
Mark is back. Would you like to let him go?
Okay, Folks.
Yes.
Spellman.
Yes.
Petrilla.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes.
Bessner.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Moving on to, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Moving on to community development. We have a presentation for the concept of Claiborne Farms. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped the agenda-related public comment. I talked about it and I skipped it. I'm so sorry.
Sit down, Russ.
It's okay.
We rotate these chair positions, so this is only my second time doing this. Please give me a little grace on this. I'd like to invite the first person up who would like to do public comment, and Tara will start taking names. I'm so sorry, Russ. Do we have any agenda-related public comment?
What about
Thank you, sir.
The consent agenda items?
Nothing like getting started.
Agenda items, we already passed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The consent agenda, I mean, they could speak.
Thank you, Mayor and Alderman, for all that you do for the city of St. Charles. We all appreciate it. And thank you for a few of you coming out and looking at the proposed site that we've invited a few guys out to see it firsthand. Looking at an overall aerial photograph of it just doesn't do it justice. So thanks for taking the time out of your busy days to come out. There are a few concerns that I would like to share that several neighbors would also wish to speak on. We recognize that we cannot fully convey all of our thoughts and perspectives and concerns tonight, including our opposition to MI Homes moving forward with the Claiborne Farms development. I would personally like to address a statement that MI Homes made during our last meeting, that this development is intended to serve residents who are downsizing into smaller homes, and that is the new normal. Respectfully, I think you will find tonight that that does not reflect the reality of why people live here in St. Charles. I personally moved from Elmhurst and built my house in 2005 from a 50 by 150 lot in Elmhurst, and drove an hour and 20 minutes every day to beautiful St. Charles, where it was rolling hills, but it was no easy way to get here. And we did that because I got an acre lot. We moved here for space, lower density, and the character that E3 zoning is meant to preserve. I also want to state for the record, I have the wonderful luck of having the one house that's affected the most by this entryway into the new proposed neighborhood. And I can tell you that sometimes when I leave my driveway, it takes me 15 to 20 minutes just to get out of my driveway with all the traffic. I can't imagine what adding another 750 to 800 cars a day will do. This is not a casual concern for us. The neighbors have organized. We have established a nonprofit organization called Citizens for Responsible Growth. We have retained legal counsel with the Rediger law firm from Chicago to ensure this process is reviewed carefully, transparently, and in full compliance with zoning intent, traffic planning standards, and public safety considerations. We also have a newly signed petition that we just started that has over 750 signatures without even trying. We are not opposed to responsible development. We want to support our neighbor's ability to prosper with his real estate, as anybody should. What we are asking for is reasonable. We would support a properly zoned development that provides appropriate entrance and exit on Red Gate Road. What we cannot support is traffic being diverted into surrounding already established residential neighborhoods in a way that compromises safety and fundamentals, alters why people chose to live here. We respectfully ask the city to maintain the current E3 zoning that we all have learned to live with and love, and protect public safety and preserve the character of this beautiful community. Thank you for hearing all of us and your consideration and concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can also remind every speaker, please make sure you say your name before you speak. That's my fault, not yours.
No problem. Thank you, Jamie. I'm Shannon Ambrosio, and tonight I was getting ready and I didn't know what to wear. So what I decided was I brought out my St. Charles North High School football sweatshirt, and let me tell you why. The last time I saw this town rally the way it did was when my son's football team went to state, and we rallied so hard behind that team, and that's what you're seeing tonight. This has been an amazing thing to be a part of and watch. And I want to thank some of the aldermen that have been out there, the mayor who's been out there, and I appreciate you being part of this with us as a community. You're going to hear a little redundancy tonight because we feel very strongly about our position, and I want you to understand that we know it's the owner's right to sell and pursue financial gain, and we respect that, and we respect Mr. Cook. However, that benefit cannot come at the expense of the surrounding neighborhoods. The property is currently zoned E3, which under MI Builder's current land development proposal would accommodate approximately 18 homes if we kept it developed as E3. If it's being developed the way they're proposing, it's 76 homes. That is a huge impact. Not to mention, more than likely there will be a phase 2 when Mr. Cook sells his property. Then we're talking 35 homes versus 150 homes in what MI is asking to do. 35 to 150. That's huge, which far exceeds the St. Charles Comprehensive Plan, which we cannot ignore. It's difficult to imagine that a civil engineer, a fire authority, or a traffic professional supporting additional traffic from 76 homes being dropped onto Rosebud Street, let alone 150 homes dropping traffic onto Rosebud. We know for certain Rosebud cannot handle it, and I beg to question that even Red Gate Road can handle that additional increase to approximately 1,500 vehicles per day if this was built in a phase 1 and phase 2. Lastly, I want to touch on where MI Home Builders is asking to put this road in their phase 1. It would be on a parcel owned by the city of St. Charles with the legal description, and please keep in mind this is what is written on the Kane County tax record, is stated as such. The Reserve of St. Charles, parcel 10, future city storage facility. It does not state future roadway. The designation has been in place on or before 2007. It raises the question of why the site is only now being tested for water, despite long-standing concerns from residents of the reserve regarding poor water and poor pressure of the water. While we understand the recent water test has been unsuccessful and will not support a well, repurposing this parcel to benefit a developer while negatively impacting the very community it was intended to serve is both disproportionate and inappropriate. Lot 10 can no longer fulfill its intended purpose, we respectfully request that the opportunity for the reserve of St. Charles is offered the option to buy this land. This will allow us to preserve the open land and maintain the quiet enjoyment of the neighborhoods. Allowing it to be used in a way that burdens the community it was meant to support is neither fair nor reasonable, and we would ask that you consider that. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you could please make sure to state your name.
Sure. Chris Laraquenta, 1025 Reserve Drive.
You don't have to state your address.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board. For starters, I'd like to say I have a great way to save some trees when we were talking about Arbor Day earlier in the evening. They're already there. We just won't cut them down. Anyway, you know, we've all seen the new development that's planned, and we've received the letters that make it clear our sewer system is already at capacity. While I understand the town has a 5-year plan to expand capacity, I urge you to be deliberate and cautious. Picture this. Based on the plan that MI Homes produced, the houses and rooms in Phase 1 is equivalent to a 200-unit apartment building. Just imagine that water usage and the strain on our system. Our son moved home from college back in May. You want to talk about the strain on the water system? I mean, I now am replacing a water heater, because whatever. Nonetheless, my point being, instead of letting this capacity be consumed by one development, we must ensure it benefits existing communities and already approved projects so that all of St. Charles residents benefit, not just a single developer. That aside, I also want to thank MI Homes, actually, because never have I seen 5 neighboring communities that didn't know each other at all come together. Never have I seen the amount of email in my inbox either. But everybody has an opinion, and everybody's really come together. We've looked at the facts. We've studied the facts. We've studied the plans. We've watched the traffic. We've watched the traffic together. And as a matter of fact, this morning, I had to run an errand that just so happened to be at that ungodly hour that North is filing in. So I have to cut on to Rosebud in order to get out to Randall, as I normally do. And I definitely do the speed limit. Ask my family. I definitely do the speed limit in the neighborhood because I'm a stickler about it. Well, on the way back, there actually was not even enough room because there was a car parked there or a couple of cars parked there. There was not enough room for me to pass, or I had to pull over and wait for several other cars to pass through. And as those faces are coming at me, one youth, another youth, a parent dropping their child off at North, all filing through the neighborhood. Couldn't possibly imagine several hundred more cars on a daily basis coming down Rosebud Drive, let alone the afternoon at 2:30 when school breaks out and it becomes a drag strip. So at one point I actually drove around, and then I was on 31 going south. And at 31 in Redgate, I was waiting for the light to change, and I see cars in the left lane going northbound. Left lane going northbound. Their light turns green for the arrow. First car makes a U-turn. Second car makes a U-turn. 5 cars in a row made a U-turn at that intersection so that they could go in the entrance to the school parking lot that's over by the auditorium. This is the kind, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't experienced it, and I suggest riding your bike there maybe at 6:30 in the morning, setting up a chair and watching the circus that is called opening time, right? So, was that my buzzer? Or is that somebody's phone? Okay. Nonetheless, my point being, I urge the board to, think about the impact on the communities. In reference to the urban sprawl, every city builds where people come for jobs or they come for the environment. Well, the Fox Valley obviously has grown because of the river. So, you know, people come here. As people move to Chicago, they want to move farther and farther out so that they can have land, so that they can have privacy, so that they can build a larger home. That's what moving to the burbs is all about. That's why St. Charles, Geneva, Batavia, that's why people covet this area. How much farther are we going to go? I already have an hour minimum commute on a daily basis. I have another 10, 15 years of working ahead of me. I'd really rather not move farther west. So, you know, we ask for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Madigan. I'm a resident of the Reserve subdivision. The Claiborne Farm Concept Plan has been carefully reviewed using publicly available engineering standards, the city's own November 2025 staff report, and the developer's revised concept plan dated March 9th of 2026. Our assessment raises several serious concerns about the traffic safety and emergency access on Rosebud Drive. Rosebud Drive, between Reserve Drive and Meadowview Drive, is designed and classified as a local residential street under AASHTO and IDOT standards. It was built for low traffic volumes, which is typically about 1,500 average daily trips. However, the proposed single access design would route all estimated 727 plus average daily trips, new trips from the 76 home subdivision directly onto Rosebud. Combined with the existing traffic from River's Edge and the Reserve, the corridor could see as many as 2,785 trips per day, which, by the way, is roughly 86% above the design capacity of a local residential street. Multiple curves on Rosebud already limit stopping site distance, which is below AASHTO recommended minimums for higher traffic volumes. A second major concern is emergency access. The developer has described the internal road as a boulevard and claims that it satisfies the requirements for two separate fire apparatus access roads. That interpretation is incorrect. Under the 2021 International Fire Code, which the City of St. Charles has adopted, Appendix D, Section D107.1 clearly states, quote, developments of one or two family dwellings where the number of dwelling units exceeds 30 shall be provided with two separate and approved fire apparatus access roads, end quote. A single T intersection into Rosebud Drive, even with a divided median, provides only one external connection and creates a single point of failure. Notably, that T intersection happens to take place at the proposed site with the most severe curve and the least amount of site distance along Rosebud. The St. Charles Fire Department has already indicated that this layout does not meet those code requirements. The developer may suggest that a sprinkler system exception is sufficient. However, a sprinkler system cannot resuscitate somebody in cardiac arrest, deliver the baby of a mother in labor, or provide any other medical care that may be needed. How will our emergency crews handle calls to those residences if that single point of entrance is inaccessible to them? Lastly, the sole proposed access road would cross the city's future municipal well site, which has already been identified, and there's been has there been any formal determination regarding the recent testing that was done, because we have not seen any of those reports just yet. We are not opposed to development, as was recently or previously stated, but we are opposed to irresponsible development that poses risks to both the safety and the infrastructure of the city. We respectfully request that before any further consideration, the City Council require a complete traffic impact study, including actual traffic counts and site distance analysis, not just on Rosebud, but also on Reserve and Meadowview as the primary feeders to Rosebud. Adhere to the adopted IFC code requiring at least two separate points of entry, and release the well site study results and any other formal report related to the viability and the plans the city has for that site. Again, I want to thank you all for your time and your commitment to the safety and the stewardship of responsible development within the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Council.
My name is Chris Belladimas. My address is 4471 Rosebud Drive. I'm on the southwest corner of Rosebud and Reserve Drive. Just so you know, tomorrow will be my 19th anniversary of being a resident of St. Charles. I was the second home in the reserves. When I first approached the builder, at that time it was Ryland Homes, we looked around and we saw a couple different properties that we were interested in. And I asked about the farm. And the superintendent at the time told me that Ryland approached Mr. Cook to purchase the property, and he indicated that he was not selling because there was a prized horse buried on the grounds. He would never sell for development. Even though Ryland Homes made provisions on their site plan, they phased it into two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. First phase was 35 homes, and the back western portion was phase 2. I think it's lot 76, which I have on my site plan. There was a piece of property between, I think it's lot 75 and 76, that everybody asks, why did they have such a narrow piece of property? Ryland Homes told me that they left that purposely because they would take away one of the lots and convert it into a street, and by chance they would purchase the farm property so they have a cutout to get to the back end of that farm. Now, it's gone. Now they want to come into Rosebud, which I'm on the corner, and just like Lance mentioned, it takes me, I have to plan my departures in the morning according to the school times. I can't leave my house between 6:45 and 7:15. There's about 200 cars that come down the road. Last week I sat in my driveway, or 2 weeks ago, for 20 minutes before I can get out. And the kids come flying around the corners. It's so dangerous. And then you have that blind spot on that S-turn down approaching the river's edge. So I want to just mention one thing. On the November 18th meeting with your planning commission, one of the members made a suggestion to MI Homes and their legal counsel to reach out to the residents for any concerns or suggestions that we had. Now, I live on the corner right behind the property, and I was not approached. If I may, can I ask all the residents around here if they were notified? Has anyone been notified from MI Homes? Now, one person here has been notified. That's the type of character we're dealing with. I don't want a neighbor like that in my backyard because they're not here for us. They're here for themselves, and they're going to be out, and we're going to be stuck with all of this. So, again, I apologize. I just feel so attached to this community. Being the second home there, I watch a lot of these people enter our community, and I'm proud to be a part of this community. Please do something for us because they're not doing anything for any of us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Janet Wickham. I live at 825 Reserve Drive in the Reserve of St. Charles. And tonight I want to talk about the water pressure. MI Homes will be presenting a proposal for a development of Claiborne Farm, adding 76 homes to an area at the very end of city limits and utility services. By the time all phases of the development are complete, it's likely that as many as 150 homes might occupy what remains of historic Redgate Farm. Since the land will need to be annexed to receive the benefit of city services, I ask the City Council to consider the negative impact this development will have on all city infrastructure. In particular, it's fair to say that water pressure will drop well below sufficient levels, given the already low pressure in the surrounding communities. The northwest portion of St. Charles has a history of low water pressure issues, a problem that the city attempted to alleviate by adding the water tower at Redgate and Route 25. When Meritus Homes took over development of the last phase of the Reserve of St. Charles, the city wanted them to construct a water pumping station or storage facility on the community property, which is that strip that MI Homes proposes for the access road. It would have cost the developer, Meritus Homes, millions of dollars. So further negotiations allowed the builder to install a water pressure booster pump in the basement of every home. I don't know if you're all aware of that. The pumps are about 3 to 4 feet tall and valued at around $7,000 each. Now that the community is complete, those pumps cannot maintain sufficient pressure during times of peak water usage. I think we all understand that low water pressure is not just an inconvenience. It affects the health of our water, erosion of infrastructure, and our ability to fight fires. It's clear that the area cannot accommodate another 76 to 150 homes tapping into city services in that area. The city of St. Charles recently told all of its residents that utility rates are going to double over the next 5 years for repair and replacement of existing and aging infrastructure. That would suggest that the city's focus should be on projects that are currently underway or approved for future development rather than considering adding another development. The issues I've discussed here are addressed in and supported by the 2018 Water Utility Master Plan and the November 18th, 2025 Planning Commission staff report. I've provided that information to the City Council through whatever. Somebody has it, so you can refer to all of that. In closing, please consider that a better alternative for what remains of historic Redgate Farm is to leave the land open and coordinate with conservation organizations, preservation societies, the Kane County Forest Preserve District, St. Charles Park District, and others who have access to grants and funding to help protect and maintain open land. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Julie Garthwaite. I'm at 965 Reserve Drive, and my house is just north of Lot 11 in the Claiborne Farms subdivision. Well, I really appreciate that they did listen and they changed the width of the lots on the northern edge right behind us. Unfortunately, they didn't do anything to fix the depth of those lots, and that's a much bigger problem. They will need to take out the entire long line of tall trees that's back there, which is a perfect buffer right now. There won't be any buffer between the two subdivisions, and those houses will be right on top of us. Zoning is 40 feet for backyards, is supposed to be 40 feet for backyards, but they only want to do 30 feet for their backyards, which really isn't acceptable. Please do not allow them to build anything that doesn't meet current standards. We should not have to sacrifice our privacy and the value of our homes just so the builder can squeeze in a few extra houses on lots that are much too small on that northern edge. Thank you for listening and considering our thoughts.
Thank you.
Hi, Cheryl Tallick. I'm 775 Reserve Drive in the Reserve of St. Charles. I sent an email on Friday to the mayor and all older persons, and thanks to those who responded. This is concerning, obviously, Claiborne Farms. The density in the revised MI plan is still a major issue. There's still many lots that are less than a quarter acre, which is half the size of lots to the north and east of the proposed development. While the house sizes are adequate, the lots are just not compatible with the surrounding subdivisions as outlined in the St. Charles Comprehensive Plan. If annexation is going to be considered by St. Charles, nothing less than RS1 zoning with no deviations should be approved. In addition to the density issue, MI's revised plans only added a buffer area on the west side. They were asked by the Plan Commission to add buffers on the north and east sides also, but we didn't see anything in that revised plan. The access has been talked about quite a bit already. I think I would just like to add to that. I understand it's called a boulevard, and that type is used elsewhere, from what I understand. But in all the other cases, I'm pretty sure they all feed onto arterial roads. They don't feed onto residential roads. So I don't understand how it can even be anywhere near considered here. They should be exiting out to Redgate Road, and no exceptions. I ask that this committee to consider also what this precedent sets for future developments, especially the remaining farmland to the south, which MI isn't committing to. If the same density MI is using in their current plan is used in the remaining acreage, it would add roughly 100 more lots to this site. St. Charles declined to annex the Pulte property near Compton Hills a few years ago, so I know they don't need to annex this one either if there are reasonable grounds to decline. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lydia Camasta, and my husband sent this email to all of you, and thank you so much for hearing us tonight. I just want to read one paragraph. It's probably going to be repetitive, but the plan only shows development for a portion of the Redgate Farm property. We feel it would be responsible planning to have a comprehensive plan for the entire farm. It is apparent, whether acknowledged by the owner of the farm or the developer, that there will be additional phases. By not having this comprehensive plan, there's no way to understand the complete impact of the development. Thank you.
My name is Terry Witter. I live at 1125 Reserve Drive in the Reserve of St. Charles. I'd like to add to the previous speaker's issue about the traffic in the area. First of all traffic into and out of the Clybourne Farm development would flow onto a minor residential street, Rosebud Drive. Rosebud is a narrow residential street with several homeowners' driveways accessing onto the street itself. The addition of potentially hundreds of vehicles to this street would create a very dangerous traffic situation for both homeowners and through traffic. To either, I'm sorry, losing my place. The addition of 76 homes would add over 600 vehicles per day traveling directly onto Rosebud Drive to either Meadowview or Reserve. The number of vehicles currently traveling on Reserve exceeds 150 cars per day at this point. These vehicles pass through the intersection of Reserve and Rosebud, and an additional 600 vehicles in that intersection each day would be astronomical. Another issue, as one of the other speakers alluded to, is the emergency vehicle access. God forbid if there's an accident on Rosebud or on Meadowview, there's potential that emergency vehicles, fire trucks, or ambulances would have difficulty accessing the area, and also that residents could possibly be prevented from even entering their homes. The Reserve of St. Charles has multiple access points. Silver Glen Road to Foley, Route 31 to Reserve, Redgate Road through River's Edge to Meadowview to Rosebud. All traffic entering and exiting the proposed development would travel on Rosebud either to Reserve or to Meadowview, which would funnel all cars, trucks, delivery vehicles, service vehicles through these narrow residential streets, significantly increasing traffic and the danger posed. The addition of this development would also affect traffic on the Redgate Road, Route 31, and Randall Road. During the peak hours, traffic on Redgate Road is extremely heavy, with cars traveling mainly to the high school and crossing Route 31 to access the Redgate Road Bridge, or heading west on Redgate Road to Randall. The IDOT traffic count program, which I looked up, reports that more than 5,800 vehicles travel on Redgate Road daily. The addition of this development would increase that number exponentially. There have been several very serious accidents, some with personal injury and some with property damage on Redgate Road, and this could definitely impact that number. The impact on traffic on Route 31 would also be dramatic. Again, the IDOT traffic count program indicated that nearly 12,000 vehicles travel Route 31 each day. A large number of those vehicles from the proposed development would travel on Reserve Drive to Route 31, creating more congestion at the intersections of Reserve and Route 31, as well as Route 31 and Red Gate Road. Another issue that is a large number of vehicles traveling down Foley from Silver Glen Road that use the Reserve as a cut-through to get to the high school. These cars would impact or intersect with the vehicles entering or exiting from Clybourne Farms onto Rosebud Drive. The traffic is extremely heavy, as one of the other speakers alluded to. Between the hours of 6:30 and 8:30 in the morning and 2 and 3:30 in the afternoon, the traffic is extremely heavy. The traffic from the proposed development could add at least 600 to possibly 900 vehicles to the streets of River's Edge, the Reserve of St. Charles, further congesting traffic on Route 31 and Red Gate Road and increasing the potential for traffic accidents and resulting in personal injury or damage. I would respectfully request that you reconsider this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, mother-daughter duo here.
You can just state your name.
Okay. Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Kaylee Waite, and I live with my parents and brother at 4055 Meadowview Drive. I'm here today not just as a resident, but as someone who lives, walks, and travels these roads every single day. The proposed development of 76 homes on 38 acres behind my neighborhood is not simply a matter of growth. It is a matter of safety and potential of life and death. At first glance, this may seem like a reasonable use of land. However, when my family and I looked closer, the numbers tell a very different story. 76 homes will generate between 700 and 900 additional vehicle trips per day, based on standard traffic engineering estimates of 9 to 12 trips per household. That means hundreds of additional cars entering and exiting a single access point onto a road that already has limited visibility and existing congestion issues. One entrance, one exit, nearly 1,000 extra daily trips. This is not just inefficient, it is dangerous. Currently, many families in our neighborhood follow the same morning routine, traveling north on Meadowview Drive and turning onto River Ridge Drive to reach the traffic light at Red Gate Road. This pattern already creates congestion during peak hours. Adding even a fraction of those projected trips during the morning rush, when parents are driving children to school and commuters are hurrying to work, will significantly increase the chance of collision. According to the research my family and I have done, traffic studies consistently show that intersections and access points with higher vehicle volumes and limited sight distance experience exponentially higher crash rates. As someone who is learning to drive this year, these statistics are personal and concerning. I have seen the risk firsthand. Last year, when I was in 8th grade, I waited for the school bus at 7:10 in the morning. I watched distracted drivers speed through these roads, teenagers like my friends rushing to school, adults checking the time on their phone, everyone focused on getting somewhere quickly. These are not reckless people. They are normal people I know that are in a hurry. But that is what makes the situation so dangerous. Human error will happen. Good planning is what prevents it from becoming another tragedy. And right now, this plan does not account for that reality. The danger extends beyond drivers like me and my family. I walk dogs for my neighborhood at all hours of the day, often along Rosebud Drive, the same road where the signal access point is proposed. That stretch already has blind spots where you cannot clearly see oncoming traffic. I plan to avoid driving on that road as it is due to the way the road is laid out, adding hundreds of additional daily trips to a road with poor visibility, dramatically increasing the risk of pedestrians like me. According to national safety data, pedestrian facilities are significantly more likely on roads without clear sight lines or adequate traffic controls, especially when traffic volume increases. This is not theoretical for me. It is personal. I'm a high honors freshman at St. Charles North High School. I am also a competitive varsity student at St. Charles North, involved in swimming, water polo, marching band, and multiple clubs. I walk and bike to school regularly. Even with a marked crosswalk near my street, I do not feel safe using it to cross Redgate Road. Instead, I cross at the traffic light. I stood there and watched near accidents happen. Cars braking suddenly, drivers misjudging speed, moments where someone could have been seriously injured. Now imagine adding hundreds more daily trips into that same system. In addition to daily traffic concerns, this issue becomes even more dangerous. During community events, my friends already have to park along the narrow shoulder of Rosebud Road during sporting events because there's not enough designated parking. That road was not designed to safely accommodate parked cars and moving traffic at the same time. If this development moves forward, increased traffic volume will likely eliminate even the limited space, forcing cars into unsafe positions or pushing pedestrians further into the roadway. This creates a situation where visibility is reduced, reaction time is shortened, and the risk of a serious accident rises significantly. This is not just about the inconvenience. It is about real people. It is about my friends, my neighbors, and the people I see every day. When decisions like this are made without fully addressing safety concerns, the consequences are not theoretical. They are human. I should not have to worry about whether increased traffic conditions could lead to someone I know being seriously injured. No student should have to think about attending a friend's funeral because a preventable risk was approved. We are not just talking about traffic. We're talking about students like me walking to school, neighbors walking their dogs, families living their everyday lives. We are talking about increasing risk in a place where people want to feel safe.
And then I'm her mom, Jamie Waite. I just want to add that beyond safety, this development also represents a mismatch with the existing community. Surrounding homes sit on half-acre to 1-acre lots. This proposal nearly doubles the density, placing significantly more strain on roads that were not designed to handle this level of traffic. Responsible growth should enhance the community, not overwhelm it. I understand that development is necessary, but safe development is essential. At a minimum, a project of this scale should include multiple access and exit points to disperse the traffic, a formal traffic impact study conducted during peak school and work hours, improved visibility measures and traffic controls at key intersections, and consideration of pedestrian safety, including sidewalks, crossings, and speed mitigation. Without these measures, this plan places convenience over safety, and we cannot stand here and accept that, because we are some of the people who will be walking those roads, crossing those intersections, and living with the consequences of this decision every day. During the school year, we have lots of cross-country runners running through our roads on the road. It will no longer be safe for them. Our community is a safe and convenient place for them to run. It won't be if this development goes through. My son is a cross-country runner, so that does hit home. I would also like to address the concerns about the communication that was presented earlier and the transparency in this process. At the last city meeting, many residents spoke about those safety concerns, similar to the ones we are sharing tonight. During that meeting, the developer, MI Homes, was advised to engage directly with residents and discuss these concerns. That, as you know, has not happened. Even though the city's website states property owners within the written notification area will be notified by mail of the meeting date. Fortunately, I have a lot of great neighbors that have gone above and beyond to fill my inbox, so I am here today with my 15-year-old daughter. Let's see what else. So basically, I urge you to reconsider this proposal in its current form. Growth should not come at the cost of safety. Please require meaningful changes that protect the people who already call this community home. Thank you for your time and your responsibility to keep our area safe.
Good evening. My name is Amy Carey Jajanovich, and I'm a resident of St. Charles. I live in Redgate Ridge subdivision. I'm just holding up, we're holding up today some of the documentation that I've done on Redgate. I have a unique perspective. My home, actually, the side yard runs along Redgate where there's a severe blind spot. I do have some photos that are here with the dates of accidents that occurred in my yard that did not include a police report. May I present these to you?
Can we have those turned into, Tara will take those from you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I have been a resident of St. Charles since I was 10 years old. I did move away at a point in time to Glen Ellen to be closer and live in a city center. I enjoyed that time, walked to many different things, but I decided to move my family back to St. Charles in order to raise them in the school district. Moved out into the western part of western part of St. Charles where I grew up, and enjoy kind of a larger lot just to have a little bit more land to roam around in, a little bit more privacy, which aligns with our lifestyle and our preference of open views. I'm here tonight because I wanted to address and also document some safety hazards that I personally seen on Redgate Road, and to ask the Commission to delay the approval of the proposed development entrance, which I know is on Rosebud, but there's been some discussions tonight of asking that be considered onto Redgate Road. But I ask that a full traffic impact study is completed and safety mitigations are addressed prior to this potential subdivision going forward. I can appreciate Mr. Cook's, wanting to develop his land. I actually, when I was much younger, I worked for a major developer in St. Charles, and I understand the need and growth within the community and embrace that. But one of the things that I did want to bring forward to you today is that in my yard alone, I've had 5 accidents in my yard since I moved to that house in 2021. The date of those accidents are September 21st. The vehicle went into our yard on Redgate and hit the road sign. So that would be, so this is my home right here. There's street signs that are here. So I've had the street signs hit on 3 different occasions. So that is the blind corner right there, the chart. That is right here. And so what happens is I think people go too fast and they overcorrect themselves and they end up in our yard. In addition to that, we had a sign, or we didn't put in a sign, but the city put in a sign because there were so many accidents to go 20 miles per hour, but that has not mitigated any additional accidents. So in November of 2021, an accident at the corner of Tradition and Redgate was hit. That's actually right across the street from us. And that person also did major damage by hitting Tradition's brick wall. And then on March 19, 2022, a vehicle went through our front yard, which I have pictures that have been put into the envelope for you, and they went over a retaining wall. So they, again, what happens here, so my home is right here, people will be on Redgate heading west, cars are on them very quickly behind them, they're taking that turn too quickly, and again, there's a retaining wall right here, they don't want to hit the retaining wall, so they come into our front yard and our side yard. So we've got both issues going on. Then on the week of March 27, 2022, someone went in our side yard again on Redgate with their vehicle and hit the sign. January 10th, 2024, car accident in our backyard by that S-curve that I showed you. Went all the way up to our pine trees and the retaining wall. Again, a photo has been supplied to you. September 9th, 2025, vehicle came into our yard on Redgate and hit the sign again. October 19th, a young high school student went into our yard because a car came onto them head on. So to avoid that accident, they came into our yard, hit the sign, did major road damage to the car. My husband went out to help them.
Then on December 8, 2025, car accident in our yard again, hit the pines, which the photo is provided for you, and that's the accident that occurred there. So hit our pines, went in, luckily nobody has been majorly hurt, but that time, unfortunately, I think is to come. Prior to moving there was an accident before my move-in in 2021 on Tradition and Redgate Road where somebody was actually medevaced. There was also an accident in November of 2025 on Redgate Farm, on Redgate Road, where a car had went in and collided with a tree there. The addition to that is not only the accidents that occur, but it's also this is not hypothetical, it's actually a risk pattern. And I've documented this with dates and photos that I provided for you, but I will also be sending videos as well, too, of these accidents. Along with that accident, I'm also going to provide documentation as to the traffic congestion that we are seeing because of St. Charles High School during the morning of the traffic hours of 6:45 a.m. to 7 a.m. So those documentations, one day I videotaped that from my own home, and I live on the corner of Redgate and Ridgewood. Cars back up all the way to Ridgewood, and I counted 120 cars backed up at that point in time, at any given point in time, and it goes far down to sometimes to the Lutheran Church, which is closer to Randall Road. I've seen people move around the traffic and go into oncoming traffic to get around, and I think that this pattern is only going to get worse if we introduce a subdivision with additional 76 homes, especially if you do move forward and look at suggestions of that subdivision coming out to Redgate Road. I think my main concern is just all the blind corners that we have on Redgate, which I also documented in the packet of information. Right here is before you come to Ridgewood. If you're heading west towards the school, there is a blind spot there. On the curve, if you keep going and pass Ridgewood Drive on Redgate, where the back of my lot is, that is where there's a blind spot as well. And then we know there's a blind spot on Meadowview also. I'm just saying this because it's not even walkability anymore that you could do on Redgate. You can't even ride safely your bike on Redgate. Where our home is, we're no longer comfortable also cutting our grass because it's like we don't want to be that close to the road, especially around that S-curve. So I just, there's some things that I ask you guys to consider today and that I wanted to emphasize. I'm simply asking for reasonable design. I respectfully request 4 specific actions: a full traffic impact study, including peak hour counts, site distance analysis, and crash history review be done on Redgate Road. So because there is a part of that development that may be developed further down the road beyond the 76 homes, and lot 60 and 61 has it ended, but that could be a contiguous road at some point onto Redgate. So I ask a full traffic study be done that would include Redgate Road. Impact studies takes into consideration any further development on Redgate as a major access road. And also there's a lot of development that's going on the east side of St. Charles, which is going to be great for our community. It's going to be restaurants, pickleball, all that. I can't wait to use all of it. But the thing is that if you look at unincorporated St. Charles, they have to go east and west either by Route 64, Redgate, are the 2 ones that go across the river. So Redgate does get a lot of traffic beyond just the school hours. That with an additional, with the additional 76 homes, it can bring on an additional 714 additional vehicles trips per day, including 70 extra cars per hour during peak times, and 1 every 50 seconds during the high peak of the morning traffic for St. Charles High School. Lastly, I would ask that you would look at approving this project until these safety concerns are addressed. But first and foremost, I want to just thank you for listening to us today as concerned citizens of St. Charles. And, this community thrives with all and all different perspectives, and I appreciate that. What I'm just really hoping is that we take into consideration how this will impact not only today, tomorrow, but years to come. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wari. I live in Redgate Ridge, 36573 Timber Ridge Court. And just wanted to thank you for listening to us, and also just wanted to add a few things to Amy's comments. So Redgate Ridge is an unincorporated area. We don't have sidewalks. A lot of people walk in our community, jog in the community. By increasing the traffic even in our community, because there will be some people who will be turning around, you know, dealing with the bottleneck and turning into our subdivision and trying to go to school that way, you know, will increase the chances of potentially any kind of accident. I don't think any of you guys want to see crosses in our neighborhoods or subdivisions. Also, from the developer, we have our own wells in our subdivision. We have not seen any studies of potentially impacting our wells when the subdivision next to us will go in. And also, we have a very delicate and complicated drainage system in our entire subdivision with 139 homes. How is that going to impact our subdivision once the subdivision is built with 76 homes right next to us? Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can just ask, if your points have already been stated, if we can ask you to hold those or just move through. We want to make sure we're not restating the same points that anybody else has made.
Okay. Hi, thank you. I'm Melissa Gleason. I live on Meadowview Drive. So yeah, we've heard a lot of information tonight. But is there anybody here that supports this proposal? No. Yeah, so I think we're here. We've heard a whole lot of opposition. I think that as a citizen and a resident of St. Charles, we're here to look for growth and development opportunities for our community. And by the people that are in this room, the comments that you've heard, it doesn't look like this is something that is something to support. So I hope that you take all of the information into consideration and reconsider this proposal because it's not currently in St. Charles city limits, and we'd kind of like to keep it that way with the current proposal. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Becky Cohen. Thank you for your time today. My husband and I moved to St. Charles a year and a half ago from Boston, Massachusetts. We looked for a very long time at many different suburbs, especially in Naperville, but we fell in love with St. Charles because of the size of the lots and just the space and the feeling that you get when you're in St. Charles that really not many other suburbs around the Chicagoland area can match. What MI Homes is proposing is a much higher density than what is within the surrounding area. The E3 zoning of what it currently is of 1.25 acres, it would be 18 homes, and they're asking for 76 homes. And if they had gone to R3 within St. Charles, that would be 18,000 square feet, which would be 50 homes, which is matching a little bit more and closer to what the surrounding areas are. But 76 homes is nearly half the size of the lots in the surrounding areas. I want to be clear that I'm not against development, but for responsible development. Lots that are half the size is not responsible development. Adding traffic to a already clogged Redgate Road, 31, and Randall would be overwhelming. I think about my daughter who's 16 months now, but someday we'll be going to St. Charles North High School, and I think about the current St. Charles North High School students who are walking to school, and I fear for their safety. I urge you to consider the impacts to St. Charles, consider whether or not annexation truly makes sense for St. Charles, because it sets a precedent for future developments as well. And is this something we really want? Once this annexation decision is made, it can't be undone. And the look and feel of St. Charles will change forever. If we want to continue to attract young families like myself or other individuals away from other suburbs, we should keep St. Charles the way it is. It can be developed in the county without changing the look and feel of St. Charles, the stress on our local roads and our utilities. Thank you.
Do we have cut anybody off.
I just wanted to add one thing. I'm not sure if this is a platform, but if MI wants to bid on Charlestown Mall and redevelop that, you might have some friends.
If there is no other public comment on items that are on the agenda, we will move forward with the next item. So that would be community development. We'll talk about the presentation for a concept plan for Claiborne Farms. Thank you, Director Colby. Sorry for the false start originally.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Just some brief introductory comments before the developer presents their plan. I wanted to highlight first that in terms of process, what's being presented tonight is a concept plan, so they're very early on in development of plans for this site. And this is really an opportunity for the city, including the committee members and the community, to provide feedback on this overall concept before the developer decides if they want to spend the time and expense to prepare the more detailed plans and information that would be necessary to present an official plan to the city. This concept plan is not being voted on tonight. It's being presented only for feedback. So those detailed engineering and technical studies of traffic, the utility capacity and system impacts, stormwater, all of that would be prepared later when there's more detailed engineering of the site. And only if the developer decides to proceed with the project based on the feedback that they hear. So following discussion and comment from the committee tonight, the process will be concluded and the developer can decide if they want to proceed based on the feedback that they hear. I did want to note that there was an earlier version of the concept plan that was presented to the Plan Commission on November 18th, and they provided comments, including support for the land use as single-family residential, but suggested some modifications be made to the plan to better fit the context of the site, and that included changes to lot sizes, buffering, and tree preservation. The Plan Commission expressed some concern with the single point of access from Rosebud Drive, and the Plan Commission also questioned if a PUD was justified for the increased building coverage and reduced rear yard setbacks. There were many comments received from residents from the surrounding neighborhoods, including at the meetings and the letters, and then subsequent to that meeting, MI Homes requested some additional time to consider those comments and came forward with a revised plan that they'll be presenting this evening. So with that, I would turn it over to MI Homes to present their plan.
If I can just ask the presenters to state your names for the record.
Sure. Okay, very good. Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, members of the City Council. My name is John Hoshite. I'm here as a representative of the property owner, Jim Cook. We're going to have a two-part presentation. I'll try to keep it brief. I know you've been here for a long meeting, but I think there are some points of clarification and some history that's important for the council to consider in determining the appropriate approach to take here. Jim is here tonight, and just by way of history, this picture that is here on the screen that depicts the Redgate Farm going back to 1963. Jim's family actually acquired the property. His parents acquired the farm from the estate of Colonel Baker in 1959, and they moved their family there, and they've lived there continuously since that time. This property is really the only undeveloped farm that Colonel Baker owned, and it's been maintained in its capacity as what we would refer to as the historic Redgate Farm, due in large part to the efforts of the Cook family. After Jim's parents passed away, Jim acquired the farm from the family. He currently resides there. He raised his 3 children there, all of them who attended St. Charles North High School. Many of you know Jim from his both professional and civic career. Jim's practiced law in St. Charles for over almost 50 years now. He certainly lived here longer than that. But outside, he's been very active in community planning, development, preservation. He served on the St. Charles Park Board for over 40 years and was a founding member and still continues to serve on the Kane County Preservation Commission. So certainly all of that volunteer time has been put in to address a lot of the concerns that many of the people have addressed tonight. A couple of things I want to clarify just to start. First of all, there's been a lot of discussion tonight and through some of the correspondence about what happens to the balance of the farm. There is no development plan for the rest of the farm at this point. In fact, Jim's plan currently is to remain living there as long as he can. In fact, it's possible that the farm would be passed down to his children who would continue the legacy of the farm. So that is an important point. Certainly this farm could have been sold many years ago for development, but the family desired to keep it in its current state. All right, I'm not a tech expert here, as is clearly identified. Can you help me get the next slide, please? So when Jim's family bought the farm, there was no development around it. It was completely surrounded by undeveloped farmland. There was no Red Gate Bridge. There was no high school. There were no residential developments. This is a current plan of what's happened around the Cook property. And you can see the significant impact that the surrounding developments that many of the people here that presented tonight live in. And if, this would even be more demonstrative if we saw to the south, because since the Cook family bought the farm, there's been a number of developments that have been developed to the south, including Wildrose Springs, Thorn Ridge subdivision, Farmington subdivision on the river, Red Gate Ridge, Red Gate subdivision, and Middle Creek subdivision, Fieldcrest subdivision, and Crane Road Estates. And so as active as the residential development has been to the north, it's that much to the south. So from the beginning of time, when there was nothing surrounding the Cook farm, the Red Gate farm, we now have thousands of homes that have surrounded the property. And I think the important thing to note here is that, you know, certainly if none of the development occurred, we wouldn't have this discussion tonight, but it has occurred. And St. Charles is a great community, and a lot of people want to move here. And a lot of people want to continue to move here because it's such a great place to live. With each subdivision that was platted surrounding the Red Gate farm, the same comments that were made tonight were made in different ways. There was concerns about utilities, concerns about drainage, concerns about traffic, density, safety. And all of those concerns were made at public hearings like this, and public input was taken. And the fortunate thing is that the city and the county have had professional planning staffs and engineering staffs that could evaluate those concerns and address them. And that's what has occurred in every subdivision that was developed. All of the concerns regarding utility, traffic, density, impact on the schools, all were addressed. And that's just proven out by the fact that each of these subdivisions that's been developed have been fully sold out and occupied. And the city, as Mr. Colby has indicated, when approving subdivisions, takes into account utility capacity, stormwater drainage, all of the issues that are concerned here. And so those are important to know, that even though these concerns have continuously been raised in the past, the area hasn't degraded, and the concerns had been addressed by the developers in the course of developing the property. Now, one thing that the city is clearly aware of is the need for additional housing. In fact, that's such an important issue to the council that the city has created a housing commission to deal with issues such as low-income housing, senior housing, housing for young families, and the resounding issue there is where do the new homes go? And so, in the course of prudent planning, the city developed a comprehensive plan. And if we could go to the next slide, this is the comprehensive land use plan that was developed. The red box at the top is the Redgate Farm. Now, when the city developed this comprehensive plan and included that property within the corporate limits of the city, one question that comes up is why doesn't this just develop in an unincorporated property subdivision in the county? And there's a number of reasons for that. First of all, county development is typically well and septic. I think public safety and health would indicate that it's better to have controlled sewer and water systems than septic systems, particularly in denser residential areas. The other reasons for this to be in the city is to control utilities, police and fire, and all the other city services that are provided in that area to avoid confusion as to what jurisdiction it would be. So when the city adopted its comprehensive plan, it clearly indicated that based on the surrounding development, it expected that at this point in time, at the point in time the property would be developed, it would be developed in the city limits and in a residential fashion. And so with that background, one other point in the comprehensive plan, the plan went further, and if you could show the next slide, please, to specifically point out the Redgate Farm as an important parcel in this process. And it identified the property as significant for a couple reasons, and you can see that it said it's one of the 3 historic landmarks designated by Kane County along Redgate Road. If ever developed, it could be serviced by city utilities and developed with single-family detached residential. But the important part is the last part, which says, while incorporating the farmstead as open space or an amenity. And it's important to note that this plan as presented does exactly that. It provides for development of a smaller portion of the property to the north, but maintains the integrity of the farmstead, and the view from Redgate Road would be exactly the same as it is today, taking into account the historic perspective. And the question has come up about access roads to Redgate Road. It's possible that a road could be put in, but that would destroy the integrity of the farm operation there. It would require removal of structures and impair the meadow pasture for the horse operation that's there. And so that's why when the plan was originally submitted, the Cooks did not choose to put or promote a road to Redgate Road. I do want to talk briefly about the process that this development has taken to date. Before anything was submitted to the council, we did meet with the city administrator and planning staff to see if the concept itself would fall within the bounds of the comprehensive plan. The original plan had over 80 lots in it. As you may recall, that was a plan that was reviewed back in November. The planning staff indicated that that plan was in fact consistent with the comprehensive plan, but there were some issues that were raised about it. It did provide a single point of access. That's another issue that's come up. There's 20-plus subdivisions in St. Charles that have a single point of access. There's a couple things that this plan has now provides that aren't in existence with respect to those other 20 subdivisions. Number one, there's a divided entryway, a boulevard concept to provide safety so that if one way in is blocked, the other way presumably would be open. And the second thing is that the fire code says that a one-way entrance or a one-access entrance is in fact acceptable if the residences in there are sprinkled. And so the gentleman that indicated tonight that that was in violation of fire code, that is inconsistent with what the fire department in St. Charles has indicated to us. After the November meeting, we did meet with the fire chief, and one of the chief lieutenants, I believe, that was in charge of reviewing plans. We met with them, we talked about concepts, and they indicated that if we had this concept, that it would be acceptable from a fire code perspective. In terms of the location of the access, there was one individual who lived tonight on the apparently on the east side of the property that indicated there was contemplation of an access point to the north. And the original plan for the subdivision to the north does have a vacant lot for that. And if you go to the minutes of the Plan Commission meetings when that subdivision was being approved, the minutes specifically contemplated that that would be an access road if there was development on Redgate Farm. Now, there are a couple of reasons why we chose not to push that as an access road in this context. One was the road to the where it's currently proposed provides a wider entrance with a boulevard concept that addresses the safety concern. The other issue is even though a road was contemplated to be put into the north, when someone lives in those properties for a period of time and nothing happens there, there's a presumption that nothing is going to happen. And so we felt that this proposal to the with the access to the east is the best and the safest for everyone involved. And so with that background, I just want to thank everyone for your attentiveness, the time you've put in. I met with every one of you here. The mayor, the city staff has been great, and I know these decisions aren't easy, but this is a decision that we're confident that if it's approved, it will enhance the neighborhood, continue to provide additional housing stock to new people that want to come to St. Charles or people that want to move within the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Russ Whitaker, Rosenhoven Whitaker, here this evening on behalf of MI Homes. Just a couple of other, I guess, more specific plan-related details to follow up on what John went through here this evening. So a little bit of background for the board with respect to MI Homes. MI has been building homes in the Chicago region for almost 20 years. The map before you shows subdivisions that are currently where MI is either selling homes or currently under development. I think the new communities are highlighted in yellow, while blue represents communities where MI is currently selling homes. MI has developed broad reach across the Chicagoland region with homes ranging from first-time homebuyer product in South Elgin to $1 million plus townhomes in Naperville. Thank you. While we're here this evening for conceptual level review, we spent considerable time working on this property. Preliminary concepts were developed almost a year ago. Last November, we introduced the project at a resident meeting that was held at the Baker Community Center. And then later that month, we presented the concept plan to the city's Planning and Zoning Commission. This plan was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission, which consisted of 83 homes on approximately 73.5 acres. I'm sorry, can you back me up? We skipped ahead too far. So there's if we go to the slide before. All right, so this is a concept plan that was originally presented to the Plan Commission in November, was shared with residents also in November at the resident meeting. You'll see sort of a uniform lot configuration throughout. General configuration was roughly 75-foot wide lot, roughly 125 feet deep, which is sort of a standard lot configuration that MI Homes would develop in the Chicagoland region. So you can see here we have that general lot configuration sort of around the perimeter of the property. When we go to the plan that is before the City Council this evening, I want to point out a couple of changes that we've incorporated since the Plan Commission meeting. First, we've actually increased acreage slightly. We've gone from approximately 37.5 acres to approximately 38.8 acres, increasing the development area by approximately 1.5 acres. As we'll discuss in a moment, the increase in the area of the property lowers total density and directly ties to our ability to provide some transitional areas around the perimeter of the property. We looked at iterations which would have further increased acreage, but ultimately settled on this delineation with the goal of preserving the historical character of the Redgate Farm, which, as John mentioned, has been in the Cook family for 67 years. We reduced lot count by 9%, going from 83 to 76 lots. By reducing lot count, we were able to increase lot sizes. Notably, we didn't increase lot size across the board, but focused on perimeter areas where lots would be immediately adjacent to existing development. Immediately west of the property is Redgate Ridge, which is an unincorporated Kane County subdivision with a rural cross-section and well and septic utility service. Redgate generally consists of 1-acre lots, which are a product of the county zoning and private utility service. North and east of the property are Reserve of St. Charles and River's Edge, both City of St. Charles subdivisions. River's Edge was developed in 2001, or approximately a quarter century ago. Reserve was developed in 2006, or approximately 20 years ago. Both subdivisions generally consist of approximately half-acre lots, which are served by public utilities through the City of St. Charles. As this relates to the plan, you'll see that we've prioritized larger lots around the perimeter of the subdivision. Along the western property line, lot width has been increased to 110 feet. We also have deeper lots planned for this area. We're showing 165 feet of depth on the plan. While this isn't a one-to-one match to the size of lots in Redgate Ridge, the lots in our western perimeter all exceed 18,000 square feet, which is consistent with the lot sizes in the reserve. Along the north property line, we've increased lot width in a similar fashion. We have 110-foot lots that are consistent with the lot width in the reserve. Based on feedback during the Planning and Zoning Commission, our goal was to establish a one-to-one standard where a home in the reserve back to a single home in the proposed development. I think the one exception to that rule is between our lots 8 and 10. Within the reserve, and you've heard mentioned this a couple of times, if I can kind of orient you here. So here's our lot 8, here's our lot 10. If you look to the north in the reserve, this is a 66-foot wide lot. This is what John mentioned a minute ago, and one of the residents had also mentioned. This is where a road stub was specifically contemplated when the reserve was developed. This is where Ryland envisioned that a future roadway connection would be made. Unfortunately, when we go to the legal documentation, the rights were never reserved to the City of St. Charles, and the annexation agreement has expired. So this property currently resides under the ownership of the association, and as we see from the residents here tonight, I don't think the association is a willing seller of that property to facilitate access. So while it was specifically contemplated that there would be cross-access to the reserve subdivision, we're not able to accommodate legally the cross-access in the area that was originally contemplated with the development of the reserve. As a result, we've sought alternative solutions. We've coordinated with city staff, and as you can see, as has been discussed this evening, we've pushed access to the east with a connection to Rosebud Drive. I think the connection to Rosebud Drive, albeit in a different location, is entirely consistent with the character of what was contemplated, as John mentioned, during the Plan Commission consideration for the Reserve of St. Charles. Just focusing on that for a minute, again, John touched on this. We have an 80-foot cross-section at that boulevard-style entrance. It is a boulevard-style entrance for a very specific purpose. That means there's a landscape median. That landscape median serves as a break between the ingress and the egress portions of the road. Both sides of the road surface, on both north and south of that landscape island, would be sized to accommodate emergency vehicles. So minimum size for fire access lane is 20 feet. I believe on some of the plans we've submitted to the city, we're showing 23 feet back to back. So what we're showing in terms of design is consistent with fire code requirements for emergency access at this location. Along the east property line, again, going back to lot size a little bit, Along the east property line, we don't have the same issues with respect to lot size. You have the reserves to the north, you have the estates at River's Edge to the east. As you can see in the aerial image, there's actually only one lot in our development that backs up to the River's Edge subdivision. That is lot 76. That lot 76 is already an oversized lot, being a corner lot and being a pie-shaped lot. So really, as we looked at reconfiguration of the plan, coming out of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, of course, based on feedback from the Planning Commission, based on feedback from residents, and based on feedback from city staff, what we really focused on is those transitional areas. How do we address the existing residents? How do we transition away from them to the north and to the west, to the east where appropriate, but then maintain product within the core of the development that we think is directly responsive to the market. And so if you look internal to the subdivision, you'll see that we've maintained some smaller lot metrics. Well, the minimum lot width is 75 feet. I wouldn't characterize that as a standard. The curvilinear nature of the subdivision layout lends itself to a diverse collection of lot sizes, including lots ranging from 75 foot wide to 90 foot wide. I would also note that most of these internal blocks back to open space or the preserved farm property. From a home builder's perspective, these smaller lots are desirable in today's market. I've heard a lot of people discuss tonight that people move to the suburbs for wide open spaces and large lots. And while that is certainly true in some respects, that is not universally true. Many people are moving to the suburbs for affordability, for access to schools, for proximity to jobs, for proximity to family, all kinds of reasons. And I think different people have very different reasons for why they choose to live where they do live. From our perspective, post-COVID, we've certainly seen a change in buyer preferences. Many buyers in today's market don't want an expansive yard and the maintenance obligations that come along with it. In fact, one of the reasons they'll pay a premium for new construction is that there aren't the same immediate maintenance concerns as you might have with a 20 or a 30-year-old home. They're looking for simplicity. They're looking to spend time with their families. They're looking to spend time on the Riverwalk or at the parks. Or downtown St. Charles instead of spending their Saturdays and Sundays mowing lawn and tending to flowers. I would also note that the other reason from a home builder perspective that we are focused on smaller lots is cost. Less roadway, less curb, less storm water, less storm sewer, less water main, less sanitary sewer. Smaller lots are more cost efficient, not just from a land acquisition standpoint, but also from a land improvement standpoint. Construction costs have skyrocketed post-COVID, so we are always looking at ways to manage affordability. I would point out that I think our development strategy is directly on point with the city's PUD standards, which are cited in the staff report. Standard 3 under your PUD standards specifically seeks to encourage a harmonious mix of land uses in a variety of housing types and sizes. Standard 5 seeks to promote economical development and efficient use of land, utilities, street improvement, drainage facilities, structures, and other facilities. I think we have creatively addressed these standards by creating transitional lots around the perimeter of the proposed development and transitioning to some smaller lot sizes where lots are not immediately adjacent to existing residences. I would call out open spaces at the northwest and southeast parts of the property. Combined, these areas account for approximately 8 acres of land area. These areas will be improved with modern stormwater facilities in compliance with Kane County stormwater regulations. I would note that these stormwater management facilities are strategically located at low points in on the property where water is currently sheet flowing undetained from the existing agricultural fields. With the improvement of the stormwater basins, the development should help it actually address some water issues that were discussed with neighboring residents during the November resident meeting. With this plan, we do maintain the single point of access in the subdivision. We've kind of discussed that a little bit. I would note that since the November Plan Commission meeting, we did engage traffic engineering firm of KLOA Inc. KLOA is sort of a gold standard for traffic engineering in suburban development worlds. I think your city staff is very familiar with staff at KLOA. So while we have not submitted a formal traffic impact study, we have gone out, we have done traffic counts, we have evaluated the situation, and that was part of our formulation and development of the revised plan, trying to understand what the traffic did actually look like on Rosebud Drive, what it looked like on Redgate, what it looked like on 31, and how we could appropriately connect. With our traffic study and discussions with our traffic engineer, we were ultimately able to reach conclusions that the access to the proposed development as drawn on the plan before you is sufficient to accommodate the traffic from the subdivision, and then also that the surrounding roadways could reasonably accommodate the development from, or the traffic from the proposed development. I want to take just a minute to touch on some of the homes that MI proposes to build at Claiborne Farm. These floor plans are part of MI's classic series of homes, so we're targeting move-up home buyers at Claiborne Farm. You see the name of 5 different floor plans in the far left column. Each row then contains the details associated with that floor plan. The Essex is the smallest floor plan at 46 foot wide and approximately 2,900 square feet. I would point out that the standard depth of the Essex model is 43 feet. All homes would be set at a 30-foot front yard line, so in this application, the rear of the home would actually be 52 feet from the rear property line on a standard 125-foot depth lot. Even with all structural applications, there is no application where the Essex floor plan exceeds 30% lot coverage or requires a deviation from the 40-foot rear yard setback requirement. The Sutcliffe represents the opposite extreme. With homes ranging from 3,400 to almost 4,000 square feet, the Sutcliffe pushes the lot coverage and rear setback requirements if constructed with all structural options on one of the smallest 75 by 125 lots. With the sunroom option, which would add 11 feet to the depth of the Sutcliffe, we get to that minimum 30-foot rear yard setback. All of the proposed homes are 4 or 5 bedrooms, options between 2.5 and 5.5 bathrooms. A 3-car garage is standard on all but one floor plan. In the far right column, I would note that there are 5 different elevations offered for each floor plan. MI self-regulates anti-monotony. We want to make sure that there's a nice mix of different elevations throughout the community. I have 2 slides of representative elevations here. Keep in mind, I just mentioned we have 5 different elevations for each floor plan. So here we're looking at 2 different floor plans, the Essex and the Fairchild. I have 5 different looks or 5 different elevations for that Essex model. As I mentioned earlier, the Essex is the smallest floor plan. There are a variety of architectural styles represented in the elevations, with the theme being classic American design. This will be a hardy or comparable siding product community, with most of the elevations including a masonry element. To be clear, staff mentioned upgraded architectural components as a potential requirement for a PUD. We're already doing that by eliminating vinyl siding with the proposed design. You see combination of lap siding and accent materials such as board and batten. Different roof lines break up the massing of the homes. Details such as corbels, clipped gables, standing seam metal roof, windows, mullions, and stylistic front doors exhibit the quality of the home. The second page of elevations shows a more modern elevation with the Sutcliffe. One of the things I think MI does particularly well is color. White trim is the only option for trim with many national footprint home builders. With the Lindell elevation, you see some of the custom elements incorporated in MI's design with natural wood color posts and gable details, along with the monochromatic trim details. I would also point out the black windows on these elevations, which are an architectural feature that is popular in the marketplace but not available through many other national home builders. Final slide here is our representative images from the Sutcliffe model. This is a model at the Hawthorne Woods Country Club in Hawthorne Woods. You see large floor plan with 2-story elements, sunroom in the top right image, coffered ceiling detail in the master bedroom, custom kitchen options in the bottom left image. So we, with MI, believe that the proposed development before you this evening would be a wonderful addition to the city's housing stock. As John discussed, and I think has been a hot topic in the region in general, certainly state legislation. The governor has made a priority of increasing housing stock. He's doing it in a very different, he seeks to do it in a very different way than what we're going about here this evening with you folks. But we believe that this will be a great product addition to the neighborhood. We're committed to continuing to work with the city through the Planning and Zoning Commission, through this board, through city staff, and of course with residents, if so directed by the council tonight. We understand that there would be a long road ahead of us with formal engineering plans, traffic studies, EcoCat looking at endangered species, historical components, engineering, stormwater. All of those elements would certainly be considerations that we would bring forward if we had positive feedback from the board this evening. So we know this has been a while, both in terms of public comment and in terms of our presentation. So we do sincerely appreciate you listening tonight. We appreciate your feedback this evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the presentation.
I will open this up to my left to Alderperson Spellman for comments.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your presentation as well. I appreciate that many of the comments that were provided in the last round of the plan were addressed. I also appreciate that everyone is still here. Thank you all. Should we all stretch a little bit? Thanks for being awake here. I also want to say at the outset that I am supportive of homes going into that parcel. That is what they are zoned for. It is the property owner's right to sell that land. They are in the comprehensive plan. It would be nice if it was green space, but it is appropriate that homes go there. So my concern is just making sure that it's a reasonable plan, that it has the best interests of the entire community at heart. The real issue for me is really just a single point of access, and not the single point of access by itself, but the single point of access onto Rosebud. If it were a single point of access that was a boulevard, perhaps with another emergency exit somewhere else to Redgate, I think that would be fine with these residents. It's really just an issue of the increased traffic flow and safety concerns in the adjoining neighborhoods. The comments from staff at the first concept plan were, staff has concerns regarding the single point of access into the development via the neighboring residential subdivisions. Staff believes primary access to Claiborne Farm should be provided from a direct connection to Redgate Road to the south via a street along the eastern portion of the property to the south. The access point at Rosebud Drive would be the secondary means of access, perhaps an emergency means of access. The applicant would need to work with Redgate Farm landowners to accomplish access from Redgate Road. So that has been the recommendation from the beginning. And I heard the mention of the space in between homes in the reserve neighborhood where there is space for, apparently 20 years ago, Ryland Homes considered that. But, you know, that doesn't mean that Rosebud is the right answer. We would still have all these people in the same room if that was the solution to go north through that space in between the homes. We would still have all these same residents concerned about traffic, and it is no longer, I don't think, the right way to flow this traffic. I looked on a map, and this is very hard to do on Google Maps, but I tried to count the number of homes that would be affected by the traffic coming in and out of the new subdivision, Claiborne Farms, to just to Rosebud, and I could be wrong, but by a couple of houses, but I think it's around 374 homes that are along the three routes out that would be affected by the additional traffic flow. And if there's 3 or 4 people in each home, that's 1,000 people affected, and I really think their quality of life being negatively affected. You know, these homes are filled with the kids, the streets are filled with kids, everyone has a dog since the pandemic, the dogs are running loose, the kids are running loose. And these neighborhoods are not designed for such a heavy traffic flow, and they already are seeing a heavier traffic flow than I think a lot of us expected when we first moved in there, based on everything we heard from the residents today. And to imagine that doubling, plus all the Amazon trucks and the school buses and the garbage trucks and the food delivery and the UPS and the friends visiting, it's just a lot. We've heard estimates ranging from 600 to 10 billion extra car trips a day. I don't know what the right number is, but it's surely quite a lot. It's at least double what the community is used to right now. And it just isn't necessary. It isn't like we're going to do this subdivision if the road goes to Rosebud, or we can't do it because there is another option straight down to Redgate. If there was no option straight down to Redgate, then this might be a different conversation if we really wanted to bring that development to our community. But there is another way for that access to happen. That was recommended by staff, that was recommended by the Planning Commission, and that is being implored to you by everyone in this room and many other residents. 680 people signed a petition, and about 10 trillion people that contacted Bob and I in the last month. So many people are affected by this, and the only argument that I've heard about having the road, not wanting to have the road run straight to Redgate, is that there are structures in the way. So I would like to know if we could go around the structures, possibly, or change the structures, because that seems like less of an inconvenience than 1,000 people having their quality of life permanently altered by all that additional traffic. It just doesn't seem like the right trade-off. And it is our role here on council to decide if this is good for the overall community. I think it's good to bring that development to our area. I don't think it's the right plan to bring the only in and out through Rosebud. There is, and by the way, there is no other comparable community in St. Charles that I can find. I heard you say 20 communities, and I've looked at some of the lists, and maybe I've missed some, but all the communities I can find that have a single point of access, that single point of access goes onto a collector road. Rosebud is a residential road, officially classified as a residential road. It's 27 feet wide. It has homes all along it and the streets that it connects to. Every other subdivision I can find, I was given the Timbers as an example of another single point of access subdivision. Well, that lets out onto a state highway, Route 31. Other examples let out onto Tyler Road or onto Fox Chase Boulevard, which is a 2-lane divided road with landscaping in the middle. And they're just not comparable to Rosebud. I haven't found any other examples that route an entire subdivision to the middle of another entire subdivision's little residential street. It's a convoluted access plan that drastically inconveniences probably 1,000 people for the sake of, it sounds like, the pretty sightlines to the beautiful home. And that is a valid concern, but I do not think it's a more important concern than the livability of all these people. So sorry, I made a speech, but that would be my feedback to the developer.
Thank you. Person down.
Well, Vicki did a really fine job of summarizing everything I was going to say, but one of the other things is that we've talked about is communication with the residents after both the Plan Commission hearing and some of the feedback with the residents meeting is, I saw the reduction of 7 homes. And if you look at that property, it's still very dense, very high density, and going back to our comprehensive plan, one of the aspects we have is to make any new development, regardless of where it is in the city, congruent and balanced and thoughtful with the surrounding community. And the way this stands right now, to me, that does not look congruent and balanced and thoughtful to the community, let alone the single access road really is a struggle. And much like my alderperson, Vicki said, is that I've been to all the places that have been mentioned. They all dump into either a planned arterial street or they have a lot more distance. If you measure Rosebud, it's about 0.2 miles from Reserve Drive down to Meadowview where it sits, and it's curved. It's not even a straight shot. We've heard residents speak about blind spots. Now you're talking about potentially 740 cars, whatever the right number is, in and out per day, and a single point of access to that point just doesn't seem reasonable or thoughtful or balanced to the community. The life safety issue that I've always thought about is, what if a water main breaks right on Rosebud? And I'll ask Director Sewer, usually when a street like that is torn up, it's a minimum of at least 3 days. Now you've blocked off an entire community for 3 days. There is no way in and out. The other thing that was mentioned about putting in sprinklers in order to meet the fire code, and as was mentioned before, a sprinkler won't help somebody experience a heart attack or a stroke or another emergency. Also talked about the water pressure and the water quality. So you put sprinklers now in 76 homes, let's say. Now we've got to make sure that those sprinkler systems are filled with water every day in addition to your regular water use. So just kind of some of the issues that are really big and need to be, if we're going to follow the comprehensive plan, thoughtful and balanced. And those would be my comments on what we've heard tonight. So thank you again for the presentation, and to you, Mr. Hoshite, for your presentation.
Thank you. Well, here, anybody have additional comments?
Just keep waking your way down or what?
David?
Oh, me, okay. For the purposes of concept, I hear what you're saying, and I hear everything out, everyone out in the audience as well. I want to focus on the PUD aspect as well. And the developer, I don't know if you were able to answer this. So there was some talk at the Plan Commission about whether a PUD was appropriate, and that's one of the things we have to discuss right tonight. I do agree with Vicki. You mentioned it's zoned. I do support single family for your information going there as well. I think that's good compared to denser types of developments. But with that being said, why? If we can go into the weeds a little bit more on the PUD, you just want 2 deviations, correct? But you're requesting a PUD. Our staff says that it's not necessary. I'm just curious, what's your rationale for that?
Yeah, so the thought process was we've got 5 different homes, 5 different floor plans, right? Mm-hmm. And those 5 different floor plans all have a different series of options that could be built onto them. So we may have a home that is 40 foot deep on one iteration, but is 50 foot deep on a second iteration. So we could schedule out like an Excel spreadsheet to show how everything fits on every single lot. Some of the floor plans fit entirely within the existing zoning. A couple of the floor plans, if we built the largest floor plan on the smallest lot, they wouldn't meet the requirements. So that largest Sutcliffe on the smallest lot wouldn't meet the metrics. From a management standpoint, we try not to be overly restrictive. We try not to say that on the sales floor you've got to manage that issue and you can't sell a Sutcliffe on these 10 lots. Mm-hmm. And so we were seeking a deviation for just the 2 items. Mm-hmm. It was a lot coverage, and I think the permitted lot coverage was 30%, and we were at 31%. But again, no, that's not 31% on all of the lots. That's 31% depending on which home gets built on which lot. So it's a sometimes type classification, and then the other one was based on the lot depth, and so the rear of the home. We were looking for a 30-foot rear yard where I believe the 40-foot rear yard is required. I talk to attorneys in my office and I say, our job is to be a chameleon, right? You guys have your standards. You guys have a way that you do business in St. Charles, and it's a little bit different in Geneva and Batavia and Naperville and South Elgin and all of the other places we go and develop. Many places, Lyle, by way of example, would actually, if you're doing a development of this size, they would require you to be a planned unit development because the city has a different layer of control. And the city can do things like say, we're going to require you to build with hardy product instead of vinyl siding. So we didn't, when we initially submitted, I think we saw it as being also a benefit to the city by offering a planned unit development, because with the planned unit development, there's an additional layer of zoning control. A landscape plan would be regulated to the extent that we had more landscaping being proposed as part of our plan. That would become a rezoning restriction and then would be enforceable by the city above and beyond just basic code standards. So we understand that there's a trade-off with the planned unit development, given that, I talked about the 3 standards under the planned unit development that I thought we met. It was, one of the goals of the planned development was diversity of housing types. You wanted to see different types of products. We had the larger lots along the perimeter. We had smaller lots internal. So you're seeing some diversity of lot size, and that diversity of lot size is directly going to translate to some difference in lot premiums or sales prices for the homes that are built on those lots. So I think we saw that we met that standard. I believe there were 2 other standards that I cited.
Compatibility, I think you mentioned.
It's economical development and efficient use of land. So by reducing the width of a lot, we can become much more economical with how we develop a lot, right? If I have a 110-foot wide lot, I have 110 feet of pavement across that lot frontage. I have 110 feet of curb and gutter. I've got 110 feet of sidewalk. I've got 110 feet of storm sewer, water main, sanitary sewer, and I could go on and on and on, right? Those costs for the incremental 40 feet between a 70-foot lot and, or 70-foot lot and a 110-foot lot, they add up to real dollars. And so it is going to affect the pricing of a home. We all know, and you guys are all politicians at the end of the day, the word of the last 2 years, the upcoming election cycle, is affordability, right? That's all everybody is talking about. And so in our home building industry, post-COVID, homes have skyrocketed in price, right? There was a recovery after 2008, and then there was a rapid acceleration after 2020. New homes sell at a premium to existing homes, and so we're always kind of scraping and clawing to find ways to minimize the cost. And so I think that efficiency of design was a second PUD standard that we were looking at. It was the economical development and efficient use of land, utilities, street improvements, drainage facilities, structures, and other facilities. So I think we met that. Maybe it was just those two. So we thought that there was a trade-off associated with the PUD. If that's not something that the city wants to entertain, I think that's something we're here to listen to and get feedback on.
I mean, from my point of view, I value and understand the value of the PUD, and I understand your rationale. Our staff also, again, because I want to try to make a balance here. So I think I would support a PUD, but the architectural standards, they recommended excess baked into the PUD. Obviously we're not negotiating right now, but is that something that what are your thoughts on that too? I wasn't at the Planning Commission, but I don't know if that was discussed.
So just by way of example, one of the things that we've already done on this project is we've said that there would be no vinyl siding. So 100%, so all four sides, 100% of the siding material on these homes would be like James Hardie siding. There's a couple of other products. James Hardie's kind of like Kleenex, right? It's what people think of. When you say cementitious siding, people think James Hardie siding. So that's a significant cost adder. But given the character of the area, we thought it was an important inclusion on these homes. I live in a home that's James Hardie siding. I used to live in a vinyl sided home. I can tell you just like the wind cutting through, it reacts to the home in a different manner. It's a higher degree, higher character of design, higher quality building material. And then when you look at the elevations that we've proposed, we're not building standard boxes here. This isn't, four sides with no articulation on it. I think you'll see that there is a lot of articulation already on the plans. So I think we would be able to go a long way towards meeting the type of architectural standards that your staff would look for.
According to this, we have monotony standards, which I did not know existed. So that sounds, your articulations hopefully meet those monotony standards. Nobody wants any monotony, of course, in standards. So my feedback, again, I like single-family homes. I hear what's being said with traffic. In order to keep the process moving, I would like to see the traffic study. I think it's coming after, moving forward. So I would love to see that, because I'm hearing what everyone's saying and it makes sense to me, but I certainly also value engineers' perspective as well. And then PUD I think is fine as well. So thank you for your presentation and everyone being here and your thoughts as well. So I want to continue the discussion. So appreciate that.
Oh, we're going this way? Okay. Okay, so thank you for your presentation. Thank you for everybody coming out tonight. So I just have some questions, comments, and I'll just give you my feedback. So the north and the west side of the development, there's a row of trees. I drove up there twice over the weekend. There's on Reserve Drive. It looks like a, I don't know if you can see it up there. Yeah, so if you look to the north, where you got number 10, lot number 10, 8, in between the Reserve Drive homes, and it appears to be like a conservation area, an easement of trees. Is your intention to keep those trees?
That's correct. That 30-foot strip is part of the reserve development, so we would not be...
So you wouldn't touch those trees? That's not part of... Okay, so that's all right. Because I just want to make sure that those, as much of the mature trees as possible that's maybe on your side can stay, and then on the western side of the property as well. Anything that's kind of bordering for privacy, just kind of like a hedge, you know, with the trees and stuff like that.
So we would, as it relates to our side of the property, it becomes an engineering discussion. So I don't know how we design or how we would plan to design stormwater on this. So oftentimes on a development like this, we would have rear yard storm sewer. That rear yard storm sewer has to get placed somewhere. And so by virtue of that storm sewer going in, it could cause some trees to be removed. Of course, that would only be on our property. So I can't, we just haven't gotten far enough in the planning process.
Yeah, I'm just throwing out there as a general comment. Try and keep as many mature trees within development as you can. That's my objective. Next thing is, when I was driving around the area and I looked at the boulevard that would go on to Rosebud there, are you planning on having stop signs, no parking areas for a certain period of time? When you go to, I went to Meadowview Drive and Rosebud Drive, there's no, I didn't see any stop signs. So is that part of the analysis with the traffic study? Because that addresses safety, right? If you're going to have more traffic, I think common sense says, well, do you have to have, you know, no parking signs, stop signs to accommodate for this? Is that something you're going to look into?
Absolutely. That would be, typically that's beyond a traffic study, and that's in coordination with the city's engineering team. But we would be happy to work on that. I mean, this is a T intersection proposed at Rosebud, so presumably there would be a stop sign on our our eastward connection to Rosebud, I believe would be stop controlled. So Rosebud would continue to free flow. Our residents coming out would be stopped. And then as it relates to the Boulevard Drive, I think that would absolutely have to be restricted with no parking.
Okay, and this is probably more for staff with Rosebud and Meadowview Drive because it's not part of their development. Is that something that we can review when this project takes place?
Yes, I think the expectation from the city's standpoint is that there would be traffic study information that would look at the overall streets in the neighborhood and the intersection to look at modeling for all of those streets and improvements or traffic control changes that are required.
Okay. And then the other thing is when you're with construction and traffic going on for a year, 2 years, is there a bond that's required for any damage to the roads or anything like that for the existing roads? Is that a requirement?
Yeah, that's typically something we would look at the preliminary stage when we determine the construction access route, and we would need to verify the capacity of those roadways and also put in some measures to ensure against potential damage during the construction.
Okay, so we'll have somebody go out there, take a look, there'll be a bond. Okay. Let's see. So the traffic study, you've conducted it, you're going to, so far you say it can accommodate, but we need to obviously take a look at that study. What is the starting price?
Starting price would be in the, let me phone a friend for some help on that. Great.
Yeah, anticipated starting prices are 600.
600,000.
Overall sales price is 7.
Okay.
Yeah. So could I, just point of clarification.
Okay, I'm hearing some rumblings here.
Yeah,
so what's going on?
There's some explanation might help the rumblings, right? So when you say starting prices, right, we're talking about marketing prices. That marketing price, by way of example, would probably be for the smallest interior lot. Of course, there's going to be lot premiums based on where you're at. So if your lot 61 backing up to the stormwater detention basin, because you have a stormwater detention basin behind you, because you know that's going to be permanently preserved as open space, there's going to be a lot premium associated with that. The starting price is going to be base home with no options. We regularly see options on order of magnitude of $50,000 plus. So these homes are expected to close in the high 7s and low 8s, despite having a starting sales price or an asking sales price in the 6s.
Okay, I was just curious on that. So as far as the land use with single-family homes, I'm okay with it. The access point, I'm okay with it. Now, I know there was a mention of there's no intention to develop the rest of the property, but I just want to make it clear, if there is an intention to develop the rest of the property, that road stub would have to connect to Redgate. I would not support any additional development. I think that's really important that it connect.
And just to be clear on that point, we, as a home builder, the more property we could get, the more efficient we could be in the development, and the longer we would be able to build through this development. We would absolutely love to have more of the property. Mr. Cook has made a decision that he's not willing to sell more of the property, and we understand and respect his decision. And that is very frankly and honestly where we are.
Okay, and then one last point, and then there's a lot of people I want to. Are you going to do, is staff going to go out there? Or are you going to work with staff on preserving the mature trees, as many as you can? Is there going to be a count? Are we just going to guess? I mean, what's the process to say, hey, there's a massive oak tree here that we don't need to cut down? Is the intention to save it, to kind of create some character within the subdivision? Is that?
So we haven't gotten to that level of conversation with staff. I mean, if this discussion goes well tonight, I would anticipate that we would schedule a meeting with staff. We would begin to have a discussion of all of the documents that are required, and how kind of that chameleon comment I made. How do we meet your requirements? Help me understand what we need to do for a St. Charles type development, right? So if the request is for a tree survey, on developments, we regularly do a tree survey. We would send an arborist out. They would identify. We would survey all of the trees. We would typically tag them, although that's been not all the time lately. We would rate them. We would size them. We would classify them. And then we could have an intelligent discussion based on the actual engineering of the site of what should stay, what shouldn't stay, what is possible to stay based on the engineering.
Okay, and one last question maybe for staff. There's been a lot of questions about water pressure, water, issues over there. When they do their engineering study, is that something we're going to look at? And if it impacts other subdivisions, surrounding subdivisions, is that something that our engineering department's going to look at?
Yes, as part of the engineering review process, we do have a water modeling study that's conducted for all projects to look at fire flows and pressures. And knowing that there's been past issues in those neighborhoods, we'll also be looking at that information as a part of that study.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Russ, I just have one question at this point in time regarding the entryway. When I look at it, I think of ingress versus egress, current landscaping that exists there below the roadway on your way out, the exit, possible future sight lines, monument signs, lighting, visibility, all that stuff's going to come later down the road, I get it. But I'm thinking of all that stuff now, and my only question is there any way to make that exit curve versus going up and around the way it's doing, to the right? When you come in on the top part of it, you're coming in with a nice curve. This way you're doing like a little juncture up and coming back down. Now I see there's a property line there for parcel 10. I see there's trees, and I'm not here to tell you to tear down trees or not. But what was the thought process in not having that curve out a little bit more so that it might be a little bit more visible, to see?
So when we talk about roadway design, we typically talk about a radius and a tangent. And so if you look at where you've got Rosebud Drive, the south section of that, you've got a radius that's curving, I'm going to say, to the northwest. You then have a tangent. So you have a tangent between two radiuses, and that gets to a good design of a road. So you've got a tangent, which is your straight section between the northwest curve and then the curve that heads back north. We always want to connect into that tangent. And so what we've done with the design here is to try to create a 90-degree intersection on the tangent, because we wouldn't want to push that a little bit north and be on that radius. There's kind of at the R in Rosebud, and I think we wanted to avoid pushing the access any further north, because if we push that access further north, it comes closer to the driveway. So, I mean, these are the ultimate location of that, and the orientation is something we can certainly work through with the engineering teams as we get into an actual engineering design, as opposed to a concept plan. But those are the things that we were thinking about when we arrived here.
So where lot 76 is, if you go straight across as you're exiting there, correct?
Yes.
If that could be softened, I think that might help a little bit with just lines, visibility.
You're thinking internal. I'm sorry. Here, look at you.
No,
I've got a curve.
Unless I'm looking at it back. I have another diagram I'm looking at as well. So
Are you talking in here, or are you talking?
I'm talking the bottom corner of this diagram where it says lot 76.
Yeah.
When you leave the subdivision, or is that coming in there?
So this would be.
Oh, I see.
The bottom lane would be egress.
Yeah, I got you. That's my fault. My fault.
Here.
Yes, that if you could soften that curve, I think that would mean a lot.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying, because you're kind of doubling back on yourself. I understand what you're saying. So it would almost be like a landscape island design. We can talk about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Munns. Couple comments. Obviously, a lot of people have made a lot of comments already. I would like to directly hear from the fire chief that the safety that has been mentioned is okay to get the emergency vehicles in and out. It sounds like currently there's an issue in this neighborhood with traffic and people racing around. So, Chief Likens, I think something needs to get looked at regardless of what happens with this project. Sounds like there's already problems. But I conceptually, I'm fine with the project conceptually. I do look forward to seeing the traffic study. I think that's going to be a very, very important component to all this. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm very grateful to live in this community. It's great that these are, the issues that we have, arguing over $750,000 houses. We do need more housing in the community. You're right, people's habits have changed in regards to lot sizes and stuff like that, but like I said, conceptually, I'm fine with it moving forward, but a lot of it's going to be weighted on the traffic study. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderperson Vanguard.
Did I go to Ron and then Ron?
Going down the line.
So happy. So I appreciate everybody who has hung in here till almost 10 o'clock, and obviously both parties for coming and making it. I think that this space, having it be single-family homes, is a good use of the space. When Mr. Hoshite laying out the timeline, I think that's a good reminder of how this property, how this section of town has developed. My ask, kind of for all parties, is basically there's a lot of questions that seem to be kind of hanging in the air about traffic, about water pressure, about things, about safety. Getting more clarification as this project continues to progress, that we're all working off the same sheet of music of it's not somebody's anecdotal feeling of water pressure or traffic. Like, no, this is fact and this is fiction. That would be, and there's I count 5 or 6 kind of questions that are still hanging out there. I'd like more clarification on that. But I think conceptually, since this is just concept, single-family homes in this part of town as we're going through it, it makes sense based on, the timeline that we're seeing. So.
Thank you. Can I ask, is Alderperson Folk still on the phone, and does he have any comments?
I am still here.
Thank you. Thanks for hanging in there.
Still here. Yes. Really, mine come down to, first off, I really appreciate everything, all the people, all the emails people have sent, their concerns. They really have been noted. I think the main thing that comes back to me is a lot what Alderperson Weber and Baumgart said. It sounds like we have a number of issues tonight that need to be addressed formally with those answers given as concerned to those plans, especially the speeding issues and the issues before school and after school with the amount of traffic in those areas and what this could possibly increase to that. But I think once we get further clarification, that can help lead us in a more logical decision-making process here. The design for homes, I think, is great as well, to kind of echo everybody else. I think it's, a great use of that land. But until we get some of those issues kind of talked about and clarified a little bit, especially the safety concerns, it's just, we need more clarification on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to thank everybody for showing up and all the emails. I appreciate it. I read all of them. I actually drove through the neighborhood, so I understand your concerns are. To me, now the most important thing is the traffic study. Because with the comments I've heard, some people say 700 cars a day, some say 400, some say 600. I would like to make sure, and I want to make sure a traffic study is the readings were done at the peak times. I don't want them off, at 9 o'clock at night. I think it's very important to address these residents' concerns. But to me, that's the most important thing now is a traffic study and keeping the trees. I want to make sure we keep the trees, go out of our way to keep them if they are good trees. I know we do a tree study to see if they're even worth saving. And just the low water pressure issues, that's a separate issue. I want to make sure we correct that problem and we take that into account when we do the study for this, for engineering. And the other thing was about the fire safety and the fire trucks and everything. I want to make sure that what the chief says is true and what you say is true. I'd like to see some more information on that. But besides that, I'm okay with it. But everything will depend on the traffic study. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alderman. Okay. I'll just make a couple quick comments because everybody's covered pretty much everything. I do just want to make clear that annexation is a choice, and we do have to have reason for doing an annexation, and that has to benefit the city. So I want to make sure we're making a deliberative decision, and that does brings benefit to the city of St. Charles versus allowing this to go through county build. And I am a little concerned, and I'd like to get more information from staff about the impact to water, and will there be any kind of impact to additional builds? We do have an infrastructure plan for water. We're spending a lot of money on infrastructure right now for water lines, and what would this impact on other builds nearby, not just in this particular subdivision, but does this have any impact on some of the other upcoming proposals that are coming in as far as the water that's coming through there. So I would want to make sure we're doing that, and I think the access point is a big question. Are there opportunities for temporary access for the construction phase, that maybe allowing the construction vehicles through? Because to the question about a bond or making sure that we're not damaging our existing infrastructure, I am slightly concerned about the size and weight of the vehicles that are going to be coming in through those smaller roads, and how long those are going to be coming in, what they're going to be carrying through, and what they might do to those roads, and could we have temporary access through the existing land that the landowner has. So just asking some of those questions, and the traffic study is obviously a large question. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item B, 2025 St. Charles Housing Affordability Analysis and 2026 Inclusionary Housing Fee. This is an informational only study. I'll pause for a moment for folks who want to leave.
Chairman, could we take a 5-minute recess?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Let's take a 5-minute recess.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Dry mouth floating over there? Getting blood clot?
You're on, Fred.
I mean, I'm impressed with you.
That was so very interesting. My mistake. Yeah. Back, no, Vicky is still.
She's right behind you.
You know what I was trying to.
Okay, we're ready to get back to the meeting.
Go.
Thank you. Adjournment is over. We are going to skip to the police department, and I'm going to read these items A through F into a consent agenda. If there are questions on any of these after I read them, you're welcome to ask staff. There will not be a presentation on them unless you ask for them, though. Just want to make sure everyone on the committee understands that. So, item A, recommendation to approve a proposal for street and parking lot closures and use of amplification equipment for the 2026 Fox Valley Marathon.
Move for approval.
Well, no, we don't need to do these individually.
Oh, we're going to read them all? Okay.
Can I make a motion to approve items 6A through 6G?
I have to read them all into the
You
record
gotta read, okay.
because we don't have a consent agenda. Yep.
Okay.
Item B, recommendation to approve a sound amplification permit and a proposal for a new Class E1 temporary liquor license for the Hopes for Hop 5K and Brew Fest to be held at Mount St. Mary's Park on October 3rd, 2026. Item C, recommendation to approve a proposal for a massage license application for AES Med Spa located at 615 Randall Road, St. Charles. Item D, recommendation to approve a proposal for an H1 liquor license application for Eden on the River located at 1 Illinois Street, Suite 160, St. Charles. Item C, recommendation to approve a proposal for an A6 liquor license application for Krishna and PK Inc., DBA Express Smoke and Convenience located at 1450 West Main Street, St. Charles. And item F, recommendation to approve a proposal for a D9 liquor license application for Cedar Events located at 316 Cedar Street, St. Charles. Do I have a motion to approve items A through F?
Second.
We have a motion by Wirball, second by Gem. Can I have a roll call, please?
Bokaitis?
Yes.
Folks?
Yes.
Bungard?
Yes.
Gem?
Yes.
Spellman?
Yes.
Petrilla?
Yes.
Wirball?
Yes.
Gessner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Those all passed. Yes, Alderman Bogard.
Chair, I'd like to move to adjourn to a special meeting of Committee of the Whole for Monday, April 27th.
Second.
And just to be clear, that is to make the remainder of the agenda items moved to the special meeting on April 27th. Okay, so we have...
At what time?
At what time? 7 p.m.
Sorry, 7
So that is a motion by Alderperson Wirball. Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
He motion, yeah.
He motioned.
I was first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Bongard.
Bongard made the motion. Wirball made the second. Can I have a roll call, please? Do we have discussion on that?
I have one question.
Yes.
Item 6G, is that going to the next time?
Item 6G did not move forward
Okay, gotcha, sorry.
to us from commission, from
Okay.
commission. Thank you for the question. So if we have a roll call, please, on that motion?
Yep. Bokaitis?
Yes.
Folks?
Yes.
Bungard?
Yes.
Gem?
Yes.
Spellman?
Yes.
Petrilla?
Yes.
Wirball?
Yes.
Gessner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
That motion passes. That brings us to public comment. Do we have any remaining public comments for this evening from our remaining public? Okay. Any additional comments from City Council? Or the mayor or staff? Okay, then I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. So moved by Wirball, second by Spellman. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Adjourned.